Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge. My name is Sia Nejad, otherwise known as the Counselor of Cash, and we've got a great Tuesday lined up for you today, and a great lineup that includes you, Jen, Michael Johnson, Richard Pierre, Liddy, Jason Pogwa, Stephen Cook in the chat. Thanks for being in here. Let's take a look at the recap screen. I know I took an L with that first half play. Ravens first half -2.5. Our sports line pick, Ravens -4.5 doesn't hit, but Mike McClure comes through. Ravens first half team total. Matt, the Sniper Snyder, he comes through. Braves run line overall 2-4. Let's do better today. Let's bring in the stars of the show. We've got such a good crew today. We got Buckets, we got Taft Gantt, we got Tom Casale, and we got Calvin Wetzel. Calvin, I got to start with you. I feel like you're bringing a new shirt to the party, and talk to me about WNBA playoffs. They are underway, correct?
Yeah, we are in the semifinals right now. Game 2s are tonight. Mercury down 0-1, need to bounce back. Fever upset the Aces in game 1, so Aces need to bounce back as well. Both series getting really exciting.
Buckets, how we doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right, Sia. I got a bit of a weird question for you, though, if you will entertain me real quick. If you were going to steal someone's credit card and credit card information, what would you buy with it?
That's a really good question. My first thought is I'd go to Target and just get like a bunch of stuff, like, and not like one big purchase to like, you know, have people look at the card and maybe have some red flags go up. Why do you ask?
I got a call from my bank this morning saying, Bucket, well, they don't call me Buckets. They said, hey, John, it's your bank. We wanted to check on this kind of questionable purchase. I said, yeah, what's up? And they said, did you spend, and this is not exaggerating, $484.13 door dashing Dunkin' Donuts this morning? If you're going to steal someone's info, I just don't understand why Dunkin' Donuts is like your go-to. Do something, I want to say better with it, but maybe I'm just not aware of how good Dunkin' is. I don't know.
That's a lot of donuts.
It's a lot of donuts.
And a lot of coffee. That's interesting. Maybe let's answer Bucket's question in the chat. Richard Pierre says cash advance Buckets. That's a good one. A cash advance would probably be pretty smart.
That's not bad.
Katie Taylor says coffee is life. Taft, if you had $484 to spend and you had to spend it today, what would it be on?
Russell Henley to carry it's in the Ryder Cup.
There you go. Well, we know Taft is here to give us Ryder Cup picks. We're going to have Ryder Cup picks all week. I think we have Brady Cannon coming on later in the week. Tom Casale, $484. If you could spend it right now and you had to spend it within the next 12 hours, what would it be on?
I don't know, man. I don't do much. You know me. I'm packing it in until May. So it'll probably be on food and drinks for this upcoming Saturday of college football, because I'm not moving for 16 straight hours. So at least $350 going to food and drinks this Saturday.
Yeah, as a credit. So basically, you give it to your local pizza delivery place. And
yeah,
just keep
I do the DoorDash. I'm probably the guy. I might have stole Bucket's credit card. I do the DoorDash.
Stephen Cook says a new recliner. That's interesting. Well, Buckets, I didn't get to ask you the question before we get to your soccer pick. By the way, we have soccer picks. We have WNBA picks. I've been a little cold this last week. Actually, a lot cold in the NFL, but I've got an NFL pick for the Saturday morning game. We obviously have Ryder Cup picks. We've got baseball and college football today. So a lot coming your way, but Buckets, $484 at your disposal. You have to spend it. What do you spend it on?
I think I'm putting it on Taft's Ryder Fleetwood Mac picks.
Almost, yeah.
Almost close. Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. We're kind of tipping Taft's hand a little bit. We might have a play on Tommy, which I love. I should tell everybody we have our best bets show today for the Ryder Cup tonight at 7 o'clock. The very familiar crew to everybody on this SportsLine YouTube channel. Tommy Fleetwood likely to make my card, Taft. Before we get to the soccer picks, remind everybody, we got the Ryder Cup starting Friday, correct?
That is correct. Now, we don't have the matches and pairings just yet. That'll come out Thursday during the opening ceremony, but we do have plenty of futures and props to bet on.
All right. Futures and props. We are definitely going to get there. All right, let's get to a play. Is it today, Buckets, for soccer? We've got Sevilla and Villarreal. Did I do that right?
You did wonderful, Sia. I'm very proud of you, and you brighten my day. Yes, we've got La Liga this afternoon. Sevilla taking on Villarreal, and I'm going with just one bet. I'm keeping it super simple. I'm coming off a little bit of a cold streak, and sometime when you're cold, you just want to step back and find your absolute single favorite bet, and that's what I've done here. It's the classic. It's just both teams to score. Nothing crazy. It's minus 125. Good playable odds for me. And if you're going to ask buckets, can I add the over to this one, maybe get plus numbers? I'm going to tell you no here, because I wouldn't be shocked if we saw this one end 1-1 correct score. When you look at how these teams have played, not only so far this season, but in the past 4 seasons against each other, both teams' score has now hit in 7 matches in a row when these two teams play. But out of those 7, 3 of them ended to a 1-1 correct score. When they played twice last year, we did see 4-2 and 2-1. So they are capable of having higher scoring games, but we have 2 red hot offenses and 2 non-existent defenses. I absolutely love both teams to score in this game, and it is my favorite bet of the entire slate that we have today, Sia.
All right. Favorite bet of the entire slate. Ryan Hemphill says if they would have called Buckets and said that the purchase was from Raising Cane's, Buckets would not have questioned it.
No, they didn't need to tell me the number. I just would have agreed. That's fair.
Is that place actually called Raising Cane's? I thought it was just Cane's.
No, it's. Have you not been before?
I've never been. No.
Oh, I've come visit Columbus sometime. I'll take care of you. We'll go
I
to
don't.
Cane's.
But I didn't say I wanted to go. I'm not actually interested in going. Either way, Cane's. Is it Raising Cane's or is it Cane's? Bucket?
It is Raising Cane's.
Okay,
yeah.
fair enough. I am interested to go if they decide they want to be a sponsor here, but for now, I'm not interested in going. Calvin, let's transition to some WNBA. First of all, there's a poll in the chat that Ben put. He said, what are you watching tonight? I believe the choices were Major League Baseball, WNBA, and I can't remember the third choice. But can you, for those, go ahead, Ben. What was the third choice?
It was soccer.
Soccer. Oh, my bad. See, this is me. People are going to think I'm doing this to Buckets. I really was not intended, but here we are. Calvin, there are some people that have not started to fully dial into WNBA, even though especially the last couple of years, in my opinion, WNBA has been super compelling. Before you give out your pick, you did mention we're in the semifinals of the WNBA playoffs. This is a good night, correct, for people to dial in and start paying attention if they haven't already, not just because of the betting lines and perhaps a softer market in WNBA versus, let's say, like the NFL or college football, but also because this has become exciting and this has captured a lot of people. So can you sell that point before you sell the points on Alyssa Thomas?
Yeah, absolutely. The playoffs have been electric this year. And like you said, WNBA attendance and ratings have been doing great. And you look at the first round that just ended before the semis, it was 3-game series. 3 of the 4 series went the full 3 games. And even the one that didn't ended on an absolute banger, a 1-point win for the Lynx. And the 3 that went 3 games, all 3 of those game 3s were also very down to the wire. 3 of the 4 series ended on a 1 or 2-point game. So these playoffs have just been absolutely electric so far, and a lot of back and forth, a lot of high intensity. And now we have game 2s where in a 5-game series where a couple teams really need to win to avoid that 0-2 hole. So it's going to be exciting for sure. You should tune in whether you're betting on it or not. But I am betting on Alyssa Thomas over 14.5 points tonight for the Mercury. I've taken this pick on this show before, and I've talked about her tendency to basically defer and pass her teammates in games where it's going to be kind of an easy win. And then in games where they're underdogs, where it's a close spread, where it's a really big game, to take over, to get to the hoop and to shoulder the scoring load. And obviously down 0-1 playoffs, underdogs, this is about as big of a spot as it gets. So for all of those reasons, I am taking her over. And I've talked about the stats before, hitting that over 70% of the time in these type of games. But in addition, she is a playoff performer. And if you look at her career, 12.5 points per game regular season, 15.5 in the playoffs. That's even more pronounced over the last few years of her career. Her minutes are up, obviously, as a superstar, from 30 to 35 over her career. And this year is held with that 31 to 35. And even in that 31 minutes per game in the regular season, she averaged over 15 a game. And we're getting 14.5 on her now. Obviously, the Lynx defense is good, but now she's averaging 17 in the playoffs this year. She's over it in 3 straight. In the 1 playoff game before that she didn't go over, she still got the volume and just had a really cold shooting night. So I definitely think that she gets the volume again. And I also do think that she's a low variance player because she gets so much of her scoring around the rim. She's not a shooter. So she's not necessarily someone that I would like ladder 25 plus or 30 plus, but I do like the floor type of plays, the 10 plus, 12 plus as like parlay legs. if you get those like -300, -400 floor type of plays and want to put it in a parlay. But I'm taking her baseline over 14.5 or the 15 plus. It's only a little bit juiced, -128, so pretty reasonable price. And I love Alyssa Thomas to clear that line tonight.
Let me ask you and again, that's your official play, but I'm just curious about what you think of. We've got the Mercury. I say Mercury, weird. We got Phoenix +7, right? And then we've got the Indiana Fever at 930 at +9. Any takes on those spreads or totals?
Yeah, in that first round that I talked about, that was so back and forth, all 4 game 2s went the opposite way of game 1 in terms of the spread, and 3 of those underdogs won outright. And so I think we see the same thing here in terms of bounce backs. I think you bet on, if you're going to bet on sides, bet on the 2 teams that are down 0-1 right now, which would be the Phoenix Mercury and the Las Vegas Aces. I especially like the Phoenix Mercury because we're getting those points over 2 possessions, +7.5. I think they keep this one close at Minnesota. And the Aces, I do think, win this game. 9.5 is a bit of a long line, but if I had to lean aside, I would still take that on them as well.
Okay. Let's circle back to a couple of questions, Buckets, and then there's a lot of Ryder Cup stuff in here too, Taft. And then, Tom, I want to get to your picks, but I don't want to forget a couple of these soccer questions, Buckets. One is from Snug the Cat, which is a screen name I absolutely love. What are your thoughts on Espanyol over 1.5 team total at +150?
I really like it specifically because Espanyol is playing at home against Valencia. Valencia is a team that has started off the season okay, but they haven't really played big enough opponents for me to warrant their success here. I've got Espanyol actually winning that one 2-0, so I think that's a great shout at +150.
Ray Garcia says, Buckets, Real Madrid money line plus Fulham to win and over 1.5 goals parlay. There's no price here, just a question.
I mean, Real Madrid money line should hit pretty easily. I know we don't use the word guarantee in this industry, but they're like a -400, -500 or something. Fulham is playing, I don't remember the side. It's in the EFL Cup. I think it's Cambridge this afternoon. They're probably even a bigger favorite because you've got a divisional drop here. I don't know the odds, so it's kind of hard to gauge, but as long as it's below like -130, I'd be okay taking that.
All right. Good questions. We got a Ryder Cup. So, Taft, before we get to your picks, which we'll get to after the break, Mutanda says, wrong team is favored in the Ryder Cup. We know the United States is favored, but that number has been coming down over the last 4 or 5 months here, if not longer. He says, sorry to say it, I already bet Europe. How do you feel about that take?
I think the value is on Europe. Now, I'm not going to take it. I do think the Americans will still be able to pull through with the strength of their rookies and the recent form. I think the New York crowd is too big of a factor here to bet against the Americans, but I don't think Mutandis is wrong in saying that the wrong team is favored.
I don't think he's wrong either, but I'm also not taking it. I'll find different ways to do to bet this tournament or the Ryder Cup. And again, tonight at 7 o'clock, you'll see the whole crew lay out their bets, and Taft's bets will come out in a few minutes. But first, BetMGM players will receive an MLB parlay boost. Just make an MLB parlay and you'll score extra winnings if it wins, only at BetMGM. Again, today, a parlay boost token available for MLB. We got to get a WNBA one in here as well. SportsLine pick. We're going to the Reds. They got a lot to play for. Listen, if you're a SportsLine member, you might have gotten the money line price at a decent price, but it's kind of spun out of control. A lot of the reason is because the Reds are simply better, but also because of the narrative shopping with respect to them potentially making the playoffs. Reds run line, -1.5 at +140. That one courtesy of Bruce Marshall. But again, if you're a SportsLine member, you would have gotten a different price on a money line, a different pick from somebody else on SportsLine that had at least a reasonable money line price. That is, again, spun out of control a little bit. So we're taking the run line here at a good plus money number from the very talented Bruce Marshall. All right, we have some SportsLine home run model picks, which we'll get to in a second, but let's take a break real quick. We're going to kick it back with Tom for a baseball play and a college football play coming up right after this message from our partners.
Critics agree Landman is a hit.
We roll the dice one last time.
Men die. Oil companies don't.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Joe Neuenfeld, Calvin, wants to know if your shirt is the globe. Is it the
It
globe?
might look like that on camera. It's not. It's actually flamingos and palm trees. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it. Nothing close to the globe, as it turns out. Tom Casale. So we've got a baseball play from you, and then we've got a football play, a college football play that you've been talking about for some time now because you were waiting for a certain quarterback switch. So kick us off with some Major League Baseball and let us know what this Air Force play is.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to go in baseball. I'm going to go Ryan Pepio over 3.5 hits tonight against the Orioles. I just think we're getting some value on this number. Pepio had that dominant 3-game stretch where he only allowed 2 hits in 3 starts. That was over 15 innings. But last start, he came back to earth. He didn't get out of the second inning. He allowed 4 hits, and he's allowed at least 4 hits in 19 of 30 starts this year. And he faced the Orioles 3 times already. They've gotten 6, 5, and 4 hits against him. So I just feel like this number should be 4.5. It's at 3.5. I think you're getting some value on Pepio. So I'll go over 3.5 hits tonight.
All right.
In college football, I know, Sia, you're going to get sick and tired of me talking about Liam Sarka, the quarterback for Air Force. But this summer, and I was on a couple of shows, and I was talking about Sarka. I'm all about the ratings, and in August when you're talking about the Air Force backup quarterback, that just screams ratings. But listen, I'm not Joey the Nose. I don't get inside information. I don't. I never say I do, but I do know somebody who's around the Air Force program. And he told me this summer, he said, we got a kid named Liam Sarka is going to be the next great option quarterback. And at that time, he was competing with Josh Johnson. And the guy told me, he said, the staff will likely go with Josh Johnson to begin the season because he's an upperclassman. He played last year. They're going to be loyal to him. He said, but at some point, Sarka's going to get in, and he said this offense is going to look completely different. Well, he got in against Boise State. He started the second half, and it was 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 23 points against probably the best defense in the Mountain West Conference. So you look at Air Force, I think their schedule is top heavy. I think Utah State might be one of the best teams in the Mountain West Conference, and Boise is. Now you look at Hawaii, they've played nobody. You look at Stanford, Sam Houston State, Portland State, Fresno State. I think this is a great time to buy low on Air Force. And the other thing to remember about Hawaii is they have the lightest linebackers in the country. They average around 214. And nobody pulls as much as Air Force. And Hawaii had trouble with the Stanford offensive line getting to their linebackers. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble with this Air Force run game. And I think you're going to see Air Force's defense be a little bit better against an offense not quite as good as the 2 they played. I gave this out at 4.5 on Sunday. It's up to 6.5. I would still play it for a half unit.
This is why you want to become a SportsLine member, because the difference between 4.5 and 6.5 could be big there. But Tom, you're still, you mentioned the half a unit. Like, would you still be okay with a half unit at 7? Like, how high are we going here? Because it looks like this line is really on the move.
Yeah, I would take it under 7. Again, I think Air Force's defense will look better against Hawaii, but when you've played 2 games in the Mountain West Conference and given up that many points, it's still a concern. I just think, listen, here's the other thing. If you don't want to take the 6.5, I don't mind going over the Air Force team total at 29.5. They've scored 30 in every game this year, and I think they're scoring 30 again on Saturday.
Rick Funcannon wants to know, maybe you haven't looked at this game yet, Tom, but he wants to know what you think of Notre Dame -6.
Yeah, I think Arkansas is going to be a popular play this week, and here's my opinion. I think Notre Dame's going to rush for 300 yards against them. I would look at Love over rushing yards this week. I just think they're going to line up and they're going to pound the ball at them. I think Arkansas is going to stay in that game for a while, but I think this is the game where Notre Dame actually takes that next step. I think they win by double digits.
All right, good answer and good question from Rick Funcannon. Speaking of college football, Taft, you gave out 3 picks last week. You went 2 out of 3, including 2 wins from the Friday recap screen. You've actually got a college football play today as well, but kick us off with what's been going on in the chat. A lot of Ryder Cup questions, and you've got a couple of answers.
Yeah, well, we had some questions on who would be the top European point scorer. Rory McIlroy at plus 300. I think he's the obvious choice. So I'm going to go with a little bit more value, a guy that you mentioned earlier on the show, Sia. That's Tommy Fleetwood. However, I'm not going to take him as a top European point scorer, although he is my favorite guy on that side. I'm going to go with even more value for him to be the top English point scorer at plus 140. He only has to beat out 3 guys. That includes Matt Fitzpatrick, who is 0-5 on U.S. soil in Ryder Cups, which I think is a hilarious stat. It just speaks to the crowds whenever the Ryder Cup is here in the States. So I'm not worried about him. Tyrrell Hatton is a weapon for the European side. However, he's a hothead. I think these New York crowds are going to get in his head. And then Justin Rose is the other Englishman on this European team this year. And he's a Ryder Cup legend. He's won a lot of points for the European side. However, I don't think he has the stamina anymore because he is older, and I don't think he'll play the full 5 matches. Whereas I see Tommy Fleetwood being a guarantee to play all 5 matches. It means he has the most opportunities to score the most points. The only other people on the European side I think will definitely play all 5 matches as well are Rory McIlroy and Jon Rahm. So you're avoiding them with this bet as Tommy Fleetwood, top English point scorer.
Yeah, this is a bet on the Best Bets show that I'm likely going to have as well. I'm big on Tommy. If you watched the DFS show yesterday with me, Mike, and Rick Gaiman, Tommy Fleetwood was a guy that I was definitely willing to play in DFS, if not captaining it's kind of a showdown setup. Listen to that, watch that show because it's actually really interesting. You can do a lot of it like NFL showdown type of stuff. All right, so you gave out Tommy Fleetwood. Did you already give out Russell Henley?
Not yet, but those are 2 guys that you have heard us say on this podcast before because we've been betting them all year. They've been some of the most consistent guys on the PGA Tour in the world, even if you want to factor in live. Tommy Fleetwood and Russell Henley have been cashing bets for us. I know, Sia, you're included in that. And I'm going to take Russell Henley to be a top 3 U.S. point scorer. Breaking news on the Early Edge podcast this morning. They just announced up in New York, Russell Henley's paired with Scottie Scheffler for the practice round today. That gives me confidence to say they'll be paired up together this weekend for either foursomes or 4-ball, maybe both. They played in 3 of the 4 matches together in the President's Cup last year. I think that they're going to run it back in New York. So why not bet the guy that's going to play with the world number 1? I also think Russell Henley in his singles match is going to avoid the European trifecta of Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, and Tommy Fleetwood. So I think he'll take care of anybody else on the European side in his singles match. Russell Henley could score all 5 points if he plays all 5 matches.
So he just has to be a top 3 USA point scorer to cash this plus 240 ticket.
Exactly. So that means Scottie Scheffler could also win 5 points. Really looking back on Ryder Cup histories for this to cash, 3 points would be questionable, but 4 points or 5 would cash this bet at plus 240 for Russell Henley.
All right. And finally, close us out with some UVA football on Friday night.
We hit Memphis outright as the underdog last week. So we're going to run it back with another dog, and that is the UVA Cavaliers at home. I think that there's going to be some juice in that stadium in Charlottesville on Friday night. They have the best team since COVID. I was talking to my counterparts who went to UVA and were on that football staff, and they said this is the best team they've had since 2019, hands down. Their offense puts up points across the board. All we're asking for is their defense to put up a couple stops. I think they'll be able to feed off the crowd, give Tommy Castellanos some pressure. He played his worst game of his college football career in this stadium in Charlottesville when he played for Boston College. I think he has nightmares of this place, and I think that the UVA Cavaliers will be able to use that juju. They're going to say, we faced this guy before. This is the biggest game of the season for us. Let's not only just cover the 7.5 point spread, let's go out and win the game outright. Give me a little money line sprinkle there too.
Little money line sprinkle. UVA plus 7.5. I was just down on, not that this is important to this play or anything. I was just down on that campus 3 weeks ago. Really beautiful campus there in Charlottesville. Okay, so let me give out my play. Then we're going to answer some questions. I'm also going to give out the MLB home run plays. So Saturday morning, we've got a play in Dublin, Ireland. It's the Minnesota Vikings. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I am all about fading the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially it's a neutral site game. If this was in Pittsburgh, which is what it's going to look like when you see the matchup, no, it's a neutral site. I would be maybe a little bit of afraid, but I'm not afraid of this offense. And I'm particularly unafraid of this Pittsburgh defense that just hasn't shown up, had some injuries and things of that nature. But both sides of the ball, not very good. If you watched any of that game against New England Patriots last week, it was pretty horrible from Pittsburgh. They won because basically they were gift wrapped the game from the Patriots with all of the fumbles, but they should have lost that game. And they just haven't been that good all season. Let's go to the Minnesota side of the ball. wow, like this might be an upgrade at the running back position and at the quarterback position, at least temporarily with Carson Wentz over JJ McCarthy. They also got some weaponry back last week. Well, they'll get weaponry back this week with Jordan Addison, but they got Darisaw back last week, Van Ginkel, Harrison Smith. This team is really coming into their own right now. I think it's such a good setup. And then you look at the coaching as well. Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, I think they're going to stymie this Pittsburgh offense. And I think the offense for the Minnesota Vikings is going to look pretty good behind Jordan Mason and Carson Wentz with Addison back, with Justin Jefferson and the host of weapons that he has. So I think this -2.5 is a really good number. I honestly would have made this 3. It's probably popping up at 3 in a lot of places. It opened at 1.5. I don't think I'd play this at 3.5, but I do think they win by 4 or more personally. So give me the Vikings -2.5. This is 9:30 Eastern time. It's a morning game in Dublin, Ireland on Saturday. Speaking of football, there was a question regarding Ohio State, Tom. From James, do we like Ohio State this weekend?
I actually took Washington at 10.5. Now that number's dropped to 8.5, so I'm not as interested in it. But I think this is a tricky game for Ohio State. They haven't played a road game yet, and they're going out to Washington to play a really good Washington team. I think Washington stays with them for a while. If you do like Ohio State, I might play a second half, see if Washington, scores early or you get a better number on it. Again, I prefer Washington at 10 or higher, but I just think this is going to be one of Ohio State's tougher games of the season.
Okay. Buckets, were there any soccer questions in the chat that I might have missed?
We got one question on the EFL Cup matchup between Liverpool and Sunderland. It's always fun when you get 2 teams in the same division playing this early. I actually really like both teams to score here. If you want plus money, both teams to score and Liverpool money line could see it at like plus 130. Liverpool are the much better side, but they're going to rotate heavily and they're missing a couple key defenders here. Sunderland get to just kind of play this one for fun. There's no expectations. I think they're going to come out and get a single goal here, but a 3-1 scoreline to Liverpool is kind of what I'm looking at there.
All right. Calvin, was there anything WNBA related that we missed?
I did see someone bring up Kelsey Mitchell over 20.5 points. I mean, you can't bet against her right now. She's averaging 26 in the playoffs. Her only under in the playoffs is 19 points. And she just torched the Aces for 34 in game 1. But I do think that she's due for a little bit of regression. She's 12 for 24, 50% from 3 in the playoffs. And without Caitlin Clark, the Fever don't really have anyone else who can go get you 20. So you have to think the adjustment for Aces in game 2 is just take the ball out of Kelsey Mitchell's hands, make anyone else beat you. So probably a stay away for me, but if you're going to bet it, you got to take the over on her right now.
Buckets, what happened?
I can't read is what happened. Liverpool plays Southampton today, not Sunderland. So pretty much I still like both teams to score because Liverpool's missing defensive players, but ignore everything else I said there. The bet I still enjoy. I just enjoy it for slightly different reasons now.
Let's take a look at the MLB home run props before we get out of here. Then there's some comments around TCU, Taft, that I want your response to. Top MLB home run plays per the Inside the Lines crew and the SportsLine model. Dalton Varsho plus 380 versus plus 425. We got Pasquantino plus 300 versus plus 420, and Junior Caminero plus 210 versus plus 270. Those are our top home run plays here on a Tuesday. Taft, there's some college football questions regarding TCU. You say you like TCU money line, and then Tom, I'm going to kick it to you for the same question.
Well, right on cue, the Inside the Lines home run plays. Jake Fettner over on that team. He's been giving those out all year. He is up over 50 units. He also is up big on his college football plays, and he is the source of all of my college football bets. He gave out TCU as his first play of the week. We think that they'll win outright against Arizona State. Another Friday night lines that we're going to try and cash on, maybe even parlay them with UVA.
These Friday night games are starting to get a little bit better. I feel like the Friday night slate's been a little like lukewarm, and then now we're starting to get some better games. Tom, your thoughts on TCU, Arizona State?
Yeah, well, TCU was a team I liked coming into the season. I thought they were a little undervalued. Won 9 games last year. I like them here. I think they're dangerous in the Big 12. I'll say this, though. I'm doing a Heisman article that'll be out later today. Josh Hoover is 12-1 to win the Heisman. Josh Hoover isn't winning the Heisman. Just like Devin Dampier wasn't winning the Heisman. It's great to talk about these guys, but if you're putting money on Josh Hoover at 12-1, you're burning it.
Wow. Okay. Strong statement there.
And I love Josh Hoover. I think
Yeah.
I said this summer he's the most underrated quarterback. I'm just saying, do you know how many things have to go right for Josh Hoover or Devin Dampier to win the Heisman? It's a narrative award that's just not going to happen.
Shout out to Tom. You cashed on TCU last week. I think it was the Tuesday pod as well.
Yes. Yeah. I'm with Grant and everybody. I love TCU, and I just don't know what Arizona State has yet this year. So I think that game should be closer to a pick 'em personally.
All right. That's these are great questions. These are great comments, spurring a lot of different reactions, and maybe some unofficial plays from our team, but also some plays from you all as well. Okay, last question here. Nicholas Brada says, Buckets, did we cover this? Real Madrid -1.5 at -120.
I do like that a lot. My score prediction here was 2-0, 3-0. I've got very low expectations for Levant and think Real Madrid, regardless of what they rotate here, win this one easily.
All right. And Chris Diorio, you're commenting on the Seattle Seahawks game against Arizona. You like the Seahawks +1.5. A lot of people like the Seahawks +1.5. I did the network show yesterday. Tom, you were on that doing Group of 5 FCF stuff with Emery Hunt. That's on the SportsLine YouTube channel, by the way. You're going to want to check that out. But a lot of people like the Seahawks, a lot of sharp people. I think I'm on the other side of it. I think we might be overreacting to what we've seen from the Seahawks so far. I think I like the Cardinals at home there, but I don't know that I'm actually going to bet it. Don't forget that Thursday morning show is really going to lean into Thursday night football, and we're going to have the crew to do it. So make sure you tune in there. Make sure you tune into the Best Bets show for the Ryder Cup tonight at 7 o'clock as well. Let's take a look at the recap screen before we get everybody out of here. I'm on the Vikings Saturday morning, -2.5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, that one in Ireland. Sevilla versus Villarreal, both teams to score. -125 says Buckets. Then Tom Casale says Ryan Pepio over 3.5 hits at -114, and Air Force -6.5 at -110. Don't forget, he gave that out to the crew on Sunday, I think, at 4.5. Tommy Fleetwood, top English point scorer, +140. Henley, top 3 USA point scorer, +240. And UVA +7.5 at -130. That one on Friday. All three of those from Taft Gantt. Then we go to the WNBA playoffs tonight. Alyssa Thomas over 14.5 points at -128. I believe that one is at 7:30 tonight Eastern Standard Time. Reds -1.5. That's the run line. +140 courtesy of Bruce Marshall. And then, of course, we got our top MLB home run plays. Varsho, Pasquantino, Caminero. Those are our 3 best plays per the Inside the Lines crew. All right, we went a little long today. For whatever reason. We had a lot of chatter, a lot of extra stuff to talk about. And that's frankly thanks to all of you in the chat, just bringing up different things, questions, comments, and your own plays. And that's going to spur a lot of conversation. So thank you, Buckets. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Taft. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ben, on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. We'll see you tonight, maybe at 7 o'clock for the Ryder Cup show. We'll see you here tomorrow at 10 o'clock for all things Early Edge. Ladies and gentlemen, we rest our case.